Anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok has been subpoenaed to testify before a public joint hearing of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees next Tuesday. But according to Strzok's attorney, Peter Strzok may not comply with the subpoena. Watch this.
Will your client comply with the subpoena or the request? Will he come on in and do another interview?
My client will testify publicly soon, somewhere. This subpoena today, so I don't know whether or not we are going to be testifying next Tuesday in front of these two particular House subcommittees.
Why isn't it an automatic yes, Eitan?
Because we have come to the conclusion, we've been forced to come to the conclusion that this is not a search for truth. It is a chance for Republican members of the House to preen and posture before their most radical, conspiracy-minded constituents.
Joining me now with reaction is House Oversight Chairman, South Carolina Congressman Trey Gowdy. He's the author of a book with Senator Tim Scott called Unified. And Trey, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, sir.
Conspiracy theories he was talking about that Republicans to buy into this stuff. But I want to play a clip from Adam Schiff talking that you were one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So play this clip here.
Sadly, here we have all too many members of Congress willing to prostrate themselves before the executive and give him anything he wants.
You want to name names? Which members of Congress are in this cult-like group that you're suggesting?
Well, the four horsemen of this apocalypse have been Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy, Mark Meadows, and Jim Jordan. They have been leading the charge, basically to require the Justice Department to give them materials that can be leaked or fed or misrepresented, like the infamous Nunes memorandum, in the service of the president.
Interesting comments from Mr. Schiff. Mr. Gowdy, how many times have you met and interacted with Donald Trump?
I've never met President Trump, never had a conversation with him. I do want to get to Strzok and Page in a second, but Jason, initially I took that as a compliment. I'm a huge Ric Flair fan, so anytime somebody says you're part of the Four Horsemen, I thought it was a compliment. It was my wife who later said, I think he's talking about those four guys from the book of Revelation. So that's not a compliment. Let me tell you this about Adam. Adam's had a terrible last couple of years. He wanted to be the Attorney General under Hillary Clinton, and no one in the country worked harder to protect her than Adam Schiff. He wanted to be the head of the CIA. He wanted to run for California and run for Senate in the People's Republic of California, but he couldn't win either of those seats. So now he wants to be the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Speaking of the apocalypse, Adam Schiff wants to be the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. If you ever have, I don't know, a couple of free months with nothing else to do, I want you to go back, Jason, and think of all the things you would not know if you had taken Adam Schiff's advice. You wouldn't know the spontaneous reaction to a video was a hoax in Libya. You would never have read the first Chris Stevens email. You wouldn't know that Hillary Clinton had this unique email arrangement with herself because Adam Schiff did everything in his power to keep you from finding out. You wouldn't know about the dossier. You wouldn't know who funded it. You wouldn't know it was used in a court proceeding. You wouldn't know about Strzok and Page. In fact, you wouldn't even be having a show tonight. You wouldn't be having a show about Strzok and Page if Adam Schiff had had his way. So, look, if they secede from the union and President Maxine Waters wants to make him the Attorney General in California, more power to him. Otherwise, I don't think anybody on my side of the aisle gives much of a damn what Adam Schiff thinks.
Well, he certainly gets out there and says it a lot, whatever it is he's saying, but he has, I think, misled and misused that position from my own personal vantage point time and time again. Now, coming before you, though, is this Peter Strzok. As I recall, he originally said he would voluntarily testify, that he wanted to get out and tell his story, but then you heard his attorney in that clip say that he may not show up.
Well, I'm certainly sorry if anyone hurt his feelings last week during the 13 hours we spent. But the only thing I did was go over what he had written. So if he's offended with things that he wrote. He wrote a lot of text. There are emails. It's an unprecedented level of animus. So, of course, he's going to be asked, what did you mean? I can't use all of the words on a family-friendly show like yours, but what did you mean by blanking abysmal? What did you mean by blanking this? We went through all of his text. Here's what's important, Jason. He's supposed to be investigating Hillary Clinton for potential violations of the Espionage Act. In March of 2016, when he's supposed to be investigating her, he hadn't even interviewed her yet. He thinks that she should win the presidency 100 million to 0. Jason, she wasn't even the nominee at the time. They didn't even have a Republican nominee at the time. But she's going to win 100 million to 0 in March of 2016, and this according to the guy who's supposed to be dispassionately and objectively interviewing her. Then in July, when the Russia probe started, he is saying terrible things about the very person he's supposed to be objectively investigating. And then we get to the Mueller probe. You know, I mean, he's been on all three: Hillary Clinton, Russia probe, Mueller probe, until they found his text. He's talking about impeachment even before the House Democrats and MSNBC were talking about impeachment. He hadn't been on the case 3 days before he's already talking about impeaching the president. So, of course, we're going to have a lot of questions for him, and some of them might actually be uncomfortable. But he's going to come before a public hearing, whether his lawyer thinks he is or not. He's coming. I'm sure he would rather go in front of Adam Schiff. That's what I read. He'd rather go in front of Adam Schiff. They got a lot in common. They both wanted Hillary Clinton to be president. I get why he wants to go there. But he's going to come before our two committees, whether he wants to or not.
Well, you know, look, Peter Strzok did not have an insignificant job. As I like to say, he didn't work for the Fish and Wildlife Department. He was the #2 person in counterintelligence for the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation. They have tens of thousands of people to choose from. Have you been able to find out why is it that he was selected or appointed to go be on the Mueller probe?
Well, you got to go all the way back to Clinton. He was on the Clinton probe. And then in July, not only was he on the Russia probe pre-Mueller, he was the lead agent on the Russia probe pre-Mueller. So in July of 2016, we just gotten through Jim Comey with that unprecedented press conference. And 3 weeks later, he's working on Donald Trump's campaign and the Russia probe. I think that group was then transposed over onto the Russia probe, and then many of them were transposed over onto the Mueller probe. I will give Mueller credit for this. The moment he found out about these texts, he got rid of Peter Strzok. But here's what you ought to be asking yourself. If it was bad enough for Bob Mueller to get rid of him, the moment he found out about the text, these texts weren't written in March of 2017. They were written in March of 2016. So he never should have been on any of these three probes. If the animus was enough to kick him off when you found it, the animus should have been enough to kick him off when he said it, which was early in 2016. Completely the wrong person. The FBI's reputation, look, there are lots and lots of fantastic FBI agents, 99.9% of them. But to pick this person, and not just him, Lisa Page and other heretofore not identified FBI agents. You remember when Jim Comey, I think you were in the committee room, when Jim Comey said the FBI didn't give a hoot about politics?
Yeah.
Go read these texts. They gave a lot more than a hoot about who was going to be the Democrat nominee and whether Donald Trump would win.
Well, real quickly, because I only got a few seconds, Lisa Page was on the other end of those texts. What's going to happen with her?
She's coming too. I mean, I heard your guests that were on before me, Jason. I just disagree with them. I think anytime you have a chance to spend 12 hours with a witness, you ought to spend it. I get 5 minutes with Peter Strzok in a public hearing. Yeah. I got 10 hours with him last week. So we're going to interview her, and then I hope we have a public hearing with her. But it's more important to me that all these questions get asked on the record. Talk about, I mean, if you want a serious investigation, pick the 10 hours over the 5 minutes is what I would tell my fellow citizens.
Yes, and they need to get the documents from the Department of Justice. Trey Gowdy, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Coming up on this special edition of Hannity, President Trump earlier previewed his big upcoming foreign policy trip, including his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Wait until you hear what he had to say about this. That's after the break.